And then it failed. Like, screw you people. Hey there, fellas. So I've got an interesting story for you. After a few of our recent experiments, we have got a bunch of leftover engines in various states of disrepair. We want to assemble one out of all of them, but you know what? Why don't we try making our own steel pistons? So not from plastic or wood, or even iron. Instead, we're gonna take some billet steel and, well, machine a set of brand new pistons and use them to put together a working engine. Now, I reckon it's gonna start with no trouble at all, but what happens after that? That's what we'd like to find out. Let's do this. Fellas, big thanks for taking so many pictures with our merch. You want some drip like this for yourself? Then check out our latest collection of merch. We've got some trendy hoodies, some toasty vests, stylish hats and t-shirts, baseball caps to suit anybody's taste, mugs, stickers, and of course some goodies for your cars. Air fresheners, license plate frames, document holders, key fobs. Hit the link in the description to get yourself some Garage 54 goodness. Get yourself some merch and don't forget to use the code Garage 54, which is good for a solid discount. How will the engine run on custom machined steel pistons? Translation and voiceover by BMI Russian. Okay, fellas, check out what we've got here. Here's the situation with these custom steel pistons of ours. Here's the billet piece. We are still in the process of turning it into a piston. So this quite obviously is not the finished piece. We've removed all of the material we had to on the outside, and a bit from inside as well. We've drilled a hole to allow for some milling to be done. And with this being an unfinished piece, it still has quite a bit of weight to it. Yeah, this is really, really heavy. But then again, this is steel. Now, the hole for the pin inside the piston is not going to be right in the middle. Instead, it's going to be slightly offset. As the piston keeps on doing... well, I mean, the rod keeps on making these types of movements, which constantly has the piston trying to twist and rotate. And so, to make them easier to work with, we've made a mandrel. Everything is on point. We've got everything marked up. All we have to do now is carefully cut it using an angle grinder, so that we'd be able to slip our piston inside and carefully secure it on a vise. So we'll mark all of this up. Then we drill a guide hole and use it to put the pinholes into all 4 of our pistons. Now, there's one thing we need to try not to forget to do. Then again, we should be able to see which way the hole is offset in order to assemble everything properly once we're done. But I mean, so far things seem to be going... they're going pretty well, though it does appear that they're going to be very heavy. Now, it's worth mentioning that a piston is not going to be in the shape of a perfect cylinder. In fact, the skirt is always a bit wider. Now, I did say that this wasn't the finalized piece, and that after we finish with all of the machining, we'll have to make it so that the piston crown has a slightly smaller diameter than the piston skirt. Now, the difference is literally a few hundredths of a millimeter, but we want to make sure everything is done properly, for the results to be exceptional. As for the engine block, if we have a look inside, the cylinders are in pretty good shape, so they look pretty decent overall, but that said, they are a bit worn. I am not gonna lie and say that they're perfect. Still though, I don't see the point in machining the block. Given the experimental nature of this video, who even knows what might go wrong? Later on we'll see whether this even works or not, but for now I suggest we finish making these pistons, weigh them, and begin assembly. Let's do this. And here's where we're at with this. Our custom steel pistons are ready for use. You can see that we've got everything cut and machined. You can even say that they're just like the original. Just like the stock ones. Now I've prepared a little something that's going to help us compare them, in terms of the difference in their weight. So we take the Lada piston, place that onto the scale, and it is showing us 375 grams. Man, the custom piston even feels significantly heavier. But now let's place it onto the scale. Yep. 1 kilo, 289 grams. So that's more than a kilo. Holy cow. So we're looking at a difference of almost 1 kilogram, which is quite a lot. That is a huge difference. Now there is one more thing I should mention. Those who have experience working on engines know this anyway, but whoever doesn't, well, listen up. Now we always weigh the pistons whenever we are putting together an engine. We need them to be as close as possible to neutralize any potential vibrations. In this case, when machining these pistons, we were of course working off of certain criteria, but then they were so vague that I'm pretty sure that they differ quite drastically. Now this piston weighs in at 1 kilo and 289 grams, right? Now we take a different steel piston. We place it. 1 kilo, 364 grams. Let's try the next one. Place it. 1 kilo, 349. Now with this kind of difference, it'd really be a good idea to shave them, in order to get them to the same weight. But we've decided to spare ourselves the hassle. So however much they weigh, though I mean that is quite a severe discrepancy. Ideally the difference is supposed to be no more than maybe 1.5 to 2 grams. You can't let it be any more than that. But in our case, what, 50 grams, 60 grams? Whatever, screw it. Let's throw it together and just make do with however it operates.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here's what we're looking at, fellas. Everything is good. The engine with custom steel pistons is currently residing in this lovely automobile. We're all like 99.9% confident that the motor is going to run. I mean, the pistons are in there. They're fitted with piston rings, we have compression. Now you all saw how much them pistons weighed, so it'd probably be a good idea to start by letting the engine sit at idle, at least for a short period of time. We have to realize that with the pistons being this heavy, anything can happen. We can snap a rod, break the crankshaft. A bunch of unforeseen stuff can happen here. So let's start by turning it over. Then we fire it up, and I really hope we're able to. I'm really counting on it. But I mean, whatever happens, happens, so let's do this. Man, it's barely even turning over. Yeah, the terminal is smoking. See how reluctant the engine is to turn? No surprise, really, given that these don't have that Teflon coating on the sides like you would on aluminum pistons. So the friction... And there's a lot of smoke. There is, of course, a gap in there, but it's only as wide as the factory specifies it should be. so it's pretty small. Okay, I think it's time we stop torturing the starter motor, the battery, the electrical components, and instead tie a rope to the car and try pull starting it. Yeah, that's what we should do. Shall we? Yes, we shall. Yeah, let's go. Oh, I was expecting him to go that way. Come on now. Come on, you're almost there. It almost fired up. It roared to life almost. Didn't last long though. Not all of the cylinders are firing. Okay, now it works. It's running. Finally, we got it to start. I told you we gotta pull it. Yeah, we definitely need to tune the ignition. I don't want to give it too much gas with how heavy the pistons are. Wouldn't want to tear anything apart. Though on the other hand, it'd be fun to see the possible consequences, whether we break the rods or the crankshaft. Okay, so I'm guessing we have to... dial back the advance? Now we gotta increase it. Oh, really? Okay, let's do that then. We're doing great. Yeah, it fired right up. We could have even used the starter. That's enough, man. Now let's untie the rope and drive. Oh yeah, listen to the engine rumble. It is making a horrible noise. Listen to that racket. Do you hear that? It's making this sort of metallic... Oh yeah, the knocking's pretty intense. But I mean, the car is moving. But that is some unstable engine operation. It has to be something wrong with the carburetor. Does the temperature gauge work? Yes, it does, and the engine has warmed up a bit. But only a tiny bit. What matters is the engine works and the car moves. And though the pistons might weigh like over a kilogram each, the car is moving. It even has a bit of grunt. But look at how fast the revs plummet. It builds the revs rather quickly, but then they drop really fast. Yeah, that has to be down to the pistons being so heavy, and to the effects of gravity. Driving next to the building, you can hear the clattering even more clearly. Second gear, we seem to be making decent progress. Curious how fast we'd be able to go on a highway. But then we'd have to fine-tune the engine first. We are moving. It is way less eager than a stock Lada engine. You feel how it... That's what you'd call a seized engine. Did it just do that? Well, I didn't do anything. I was just pressing the gas. Yep, seized. Oh man, it's almost at operating temperature. The needle on the gauge has almost assumed a vertical position, but the engine has seized. How far have we even gone? I take it no more than 300 meters. 500. Maybe a bit more if we factor in the towing part. But the engine has seized. Perhaps if we let it cool? Yeah, in theory it should be able to run after it cools down. Alright, whatever, let's go then. We have seen seized Lada engines start after cooling off before, so... Okay, it has cooled down. Now we've seen this happen a million times before, when the engine would seize upon getting warm, but then very happily turn over after cooling down. And we're about to find out whether that's the case here. It's actually been sitting all night. And it's not even just cold at this point. I'd even say that it's a bit frozen. Anyway, we're ready to try starting it. I'm gonna hook up this device just in case. Alright, let her rip. Hopefully the starter motor can get it going. I see some smoke coming from the wires. Okay, so if this isn't working, then it's time to resort to plan B. Which is... pull the car. Oh wait, that would be plan P then. As in pull, right? Alright, let's get out there. What's going on in the back? Oh, come on. I guess the engine is boned. Let me try fourth. Now, I don't understand what's going on. The transmission is in gear. Oh man, this is totally unacceptable. It only ran for like a tiny bit. That doesn't seem right. It ain't having it. Third? No, it's not starting in third. Get in there. That's it. The engine is boned. How long was it even running? Like 4 minutes? Before letting go? Okay, so here's what's up. Despite the engine being ice cold, I mean, it is chilly in here since we didn't have the heat on. Now, the expansion clearances have a dramatic effect on engine operation. If they're too small, this is what you end up with. But that said, in this case, they were such that the piston slides right in there with zero effort. But then we know that steel expands quite a bit with heat, and apparently that's what led to our current predicament. To get a better idea of what's going on, we need to tear the engine down. And the moment of truth. We've taken some stuff apart, and now we turn the engine over. Let's see what that leads to. You're tightening the nut. Oh man, we're gonna break it. Screw this. Now we definitely know that the engine is seized. It's stuck. Doesn't want to move. we got scratches. We immediately saw that there are some pretty severe scratches on the cylinders. Yeah, those look pretty nasty. First thoughts about what might have caused them? At first I assumed that we screwed up with the expansion clearances, as in we didn't leave enough. Another idea was that the rings might have gotten stuck. They were jammed inside their grooves, and at some point a few of them might have broken apart. So we thought that's what might have caused the damage, but no. After removing all of the pistons, check this out. The piston rings, they're moving around with no problem, on all 4 pistons, as a matter of fact. Now, upon closer examination, we found that in certain places you've got evidence of... The point is, you can tell that they were scratching the cylinders. It's just on one side, though. But I mean, how? They slip into the cylinders with no trouble at all. They have plenty of clearance. They easily move around in there. The gap is pretty big. I mean, look. There's even a bit of play. I drop it up to the rings, and it has no trouble moving around. So there's plenty of clearance. But then I had a closer look, and I noticed something. And it is a sad thing to look at. I take it that's what might have caused the problem. Now, you do remember that when I weighed the pistons, they turned out an entire kilo heavier than the aluminum ones. Now, the holes for the pins, we made those exactly the right size. It was all looking good, but then apparently because the pistons weigh so much, the holes have deformed. The holes were wrecked to the point where the pin is just freely moving around inside. Yeah, that's where I'm going to place my bet. That this was caused by the weight of the pistons. When the piston itself was on the upswing, at the same time the rod was switching direction. And well, yeah, these are made from regular old steel, mind you, which is quite easily deformed. And the sheer stress that these pistons were under would have accelerated the process. Me, I was expecting to see either a rod snap or the crankshaft break. I didn't see it playing out any other way. But as a matter of fact, neither of those scenarios proved to be true, and instead this happened. I mean, honestly, guys. I mean, it's pretty obvious that at some point they were tilted, and that's what caused the scratches. I mean, all of the pistons have scrapes that line up with the pin axes, which of course correspond with the scratches on the cylinders. And so yeah, this was a rather interesting one with these steel pistons. We have learned that making pistons out of regular steel is not going to work. Straight up. The engine doesn't want to run. No matter what we tried, wood, plastic, steel, nothing worked. Okay, you saw it all for yourselves, and that's all I have for you. Watch us, subscribe, send in your suggestions, comment, give us a big thumbs up. All right, catch you later.